Sound, Mind, and Body is brought to you in part by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/inbound. You'll find over 180,000 titles to choose from and to listen to through your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. Support Sound, Mind, and Body by visiting audibletrial.com/inbound.
Hello, and welcome to Sound, Mind, and Body, a podcast where we talk about how to stay healthy, balanced, and well of mind, body, and spirit in today's crazy world with a dash of woo-woo. My guest today is part of the series of interviews that I would like to introduce you to some of the millennials in my life, because you've heard me talk about my son, who's a millennial, and he has some amazing friends. My guest today is one of my son Michael's friends. You've heard me talk about my son Michael, and he's a millennial, and we all hear about the millennials. And, you know, some people are of the mind that millennials are a problem now. But I think that, you know, that has happened throughout history. Older generations think that the younger generation is always, you know, crazy and not, you know, on the right path, but I have found just the opposite with my son Michael and his great group of friends. So today we are talking to Chris Whitehall. He's a singer of Australian rock band the Griswolds. And yes, they are named after the family in the Vacation film. They're known for singles like Beware the Dog and Heart of a Lion. And Chris is going to show us how to be impressive in your professional and personal life. So welcome, Chris.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for coming.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Chris, why don't you tell us briefly how you got into music and the beginnings of the Griswolds?
Wow, that's a big story, right?
It's a big story.
It's a long story. It starts, we go all the way back to me being maybe 5 years old. And,
oh, really?
Well, my parents bought my brother a drum kit, and I think that was the first time I really started playing an instrument. That drum kit disappeared not long later when my parents realized how horrible it is to have a drum kit in your house. And I think it was driving everyone insane. So that drum kit disappeared, and we picked up, both me and my brother picked up acoustic guitar as the instrument of choice. Much more friendly to mum's poor ears.
Yeah.
So that's where my love of music birthed, and I've literally been doing music ever since then, since being a kid.
Born to do music.
Yeah, I started playing in bands when I was 15.
Mm-hmm.
That was my first band, and since then I've probably been in maybe 8 or 9 different bands back in Australia.
Uh-huh.
Before the Griswolds finally, I guess, had some success and started us out on this crazy journey.
So how many years ago was that? And did you have a feeling when you were in the Griswolds? Did you kind of have this feeling like, oh my gosh, this might be the band, you know, that actually makes it?
I'm not sure if we knew back then. I mean, it was probably when me and Dan, the co-owner of the band and co-songwriter with me, when we started the band, I guess that was about 6 years ago now, when we first started writing songs together, and we actually moved in together and made a little studio that we could write songs in. But back in those days, I think we just for the first time, I think we took the pressure of bands always are trying to make it. We just want to make it. We want to be famous.
Right.
You know, and I think that's kind of the mentality as a young band is get signed and you've made it. I think when we started the Griswolds, we really just went, let's just have fun. Let's just write some songs together and have fun, and without the stress and pressure of thinking about where they're going to go or how big they can be. And I think our dreams of success back then were literally getting on Australian radio, just getting our song played on Australian radio was that was pretty much that's where the goals were set.
And you were all working regular day jobs?
We were working jobs, yeah. We had full-time jobs back then, so we would work all day and then come back home and work all night, starting the band and writing songs and doing all the admin and promotion that came along with trying to get your band out there.
So when you started to have your band out there, though, it was more you could get it out there on social media and all kinds of ways on the internet to get it out there. And so did you build a following through that just alone?
Yeah, so we kind of started, I guess we were pretty good at social media for some reason. I don't know, I think it's just like the Australian larrikin. I don't know if anyone knows that word. It's an Australian word for...
No.
I don't know. I guess it's... like a larrikin that's funny kind of out there Australians that is, Australians are pretty well known for not really giving two hoots about much. So,
so what is the word? Say it again.
A larrikin.
How do you spell it?
Larakin.
Oh, okay. We learned something new today.
Just a clown, I guess, is probably,
Yeah.
So we would just jump on social media and just like we'd be really, really active, and our fan base just grew really organically.
And what city are you from in Australia?
We're from Sydney.
Oh, okay. So it's a pretty big city.
It's a huge city, yeah. I think it's definitely the biggest city in Australia.
Uh-huh. And then you were playing in the local clubs and things like that? Or
yeah, we literally started out, I mean, I think our first show was actually pretty good as far as first shows go. I think we had like a couple of hundred people there. And
oh, that's good.
Yeah, so luckily enough, we didn't really ever do the playing to kind of 8 people thing. Like we did that in all of our other bands
right.
prior to the Griswolds.
Where there's like one person going.
Yeah, it's your mum and your girlfriend standing in the audience. Woo!
And it's at 1 a.m.
Yeah, so by the time we sort of played our first show, I mean, everything happened so fast, and I think we've been chasing our tails ever since then. But
it's kind of like when it's right, it just works.
It just worked. Everything was in its right place. We had kind of done every other band. We'd learnt so many lessons, and like I said, we really just came into it having such a good time that it was just a really beautiful organic thing. And when it happened, we were just kind of like, whoa.
That's like the magic of it.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, we still kind of. I mean, I'm definitely like, wow, like how did this all happen, and how did we get here? But
so what's the scene like in Australia? I mean, now that you've been in LA for a little while, but how is it as far as a breaking out band? Do you have to pay to play? Is it like that? Because it's kind of difficult here sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, America in general is just it's just so huge. I mean, in terms of like the amount of people, the amount of bands trying to do their thing, the amount of people to impress, like radio stations, and there's just so many blogs. I mean, Australia is just a really, really simplified version. I mean, we only have like 5 or 6 major cities.
Okay.
And in a land that's kind of like the same landmass size as America, we just don't have anywhere near as big amount of people to impress. There's obviously not as many bands to kind of do anything in Australia. You get on one radio station
and you're done, and you've really reached almost the whole continent, right?
Yeah, that's like, well, it's a nationwide radio station called Triple J, and once you're on that station, like that's a huge leg up. If they play your song just a couple of times, it's pretty good.
Yeah, a lot
Whereas
different.
Here in America, there's like 63 alternative stations or something that you need to try and impress to kind of make it. So
yeah,
it's just everything's kind of, it's very similar to America in a lot of ways. It's just a lot smaller, and in Sydney there's a lot kind of less clubs and things to play. You just play we just kind of played the same places over and over again for a while until our fan base kind of built up, and then we got the radio play there, and
so did somebody. So you were playing and you went. At what point did you record the EP? Was that before you? Did you do that on your own, or did you get signed?
We did all that on our own.
Okay.
So myself and Dan, we started writing our songs, and we had, because we were working at the time, we had money that we could fund ourselves. So we paid for our own EP when we recorded it, which I think at the time, like, we put a lot of money into that for like a starting out band. We recorded our own music videos. And
who did someone else produce it, or did you produce it?
Myself and Dan produced that EP.
That's great.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really cool. Like, took us out of our comfort zone for sure.
Yeah, and then that had great success. And is that how you started to get recognized by labels or professional?
Yeah. So I guess
that's
the
quite
internet,
a testament to you guys. You know,
it's like the first song that came out. The internet kind of took it and ran with it, and we were getting people blogging about it here in America, in Europe.
Oh wow!
It really, and that was just the first song we released, and labels had already kind of had their eye on us just from that first song. By the time we dropped the second song, like 3 months later, deals were rolling in just off 2 songs.
Did you have a manager, or was it just you guys?
Yeah, we had a manager. We actually had a manager. It was one of the first things we did. It was one of the
that's
first things
smart,
we locked
you know?
in. It was amazing. He kind of believed in us right from the beginning, before we had done anything, before we'd played a live show, before we even had a band name.
Oh, wow.
He was on board. He was a friend of a friend, and he had already been managing bands, and he believed in our music. He just heard the songs, the demos that we had before we even recorded, and it was just like, this is going to be good.
Oh, cool.
I need to be a part of this. So we already had the manager. So it was kind of me, Dan, and the manager running the ship. Mm-hmm. Label contracts sort of started rolling into us in Australia after those 2 songs, and the EP was just out. And we found our label not too long later, and signed our deal, and everything's kind of been
what
crazy.
What label are you on?
So that label at the time was called Wind Up Records.
Mm-hmm.
They were the biggest indie label in the world, as far as I knew. I don't think they don't exist anymore, but.
And was that distributed through a major, or was it just?
It was distributed through Sony, I think.
It's all intertwined somehow. Yeah. It's totally different than it was when I was working in the business years ago. So you got signed and everything, and then were you still working? And at what point did you go, we got to give up our day jobs? At what point did you say, oh my God, was that during a tour, or did you go on tour and then come back to your job, or how did that come about?
Yeah, so we were still working, and the EP was out. We had signed our contract, and I guess we were now writing the next album whilst touring around Australia. Mm-hmm. And I think we got to, I actually remember the date exactly.
You do?
August 1st, 2013 was the day both me and Dan went, cool, jobs are done.
Really?
Because we had to write this album, and we were just like, we can't
do this,
write this and still work jobs, because it's just going to take way too long. We can't kind of write for 4 hours every night after work, and it's gonna kill us. So
you had to leap, and the net appeared.
So we did. We both stopped our jobs, and we actually went and moved to this house in the middle of the Australian bush, just literally surrounded by nothing, and wrote our first album.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And that's kind of how that all happened. And that was a pretty wild feeling, because we absolutely shouldn't have quit our jobs at that point, probably.
Well, if you're thinking practically, right?
Not necessarily the wisest move, but seemed to work out at the time.
At some point, you got to just jump. You know?
Really do. You really do. You just kind of have to trust. There's a million excuses,
right? Always
that are always going to come into your head about why you shouldn't do something. And if you always listen to those, you're most likely just going to kind of stay stagnant.
Yeah. So that must have launched you into a whole different world. And so once you began recording professionally, and you were like, this is what I'm doing for my job, basically, and touring. When was your first international tour, and how did your life change from that?
Our first US tour was at the end of 2013. It was like a 3-week tour just around America, but that was crazy. We had no idea what to expect.
Really?
We just felt like obnoxious little kids on the road, just having no idea what we were really doing, and it was just a little party kind of around America, I guess. You put 4 good mates together in a van that have never been to America before, and just basically a 3-week party in a bus playing shows. So.
Did your manager come with you?
He didn't come for that one, no.
Yeah. So did you have any roadies or tour manager or anybody that?
We had a tour manager who he's actually now one of my best friends. Even he's not our tour manager anymore, but and we found him through a friend's band that just recommended him. He was an American guy from Texas, and he'd done it before. And he took us around, and it was basically just the 4 of us and him.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what kind of places? You were just playing clubs or things like that, or
we were supporting another Australian band that was signed to our label, and we were just playing. We were playing pretty little clubs, about 200 capacities, and they were not filling up at all.
Really?
There was literally just your mum and your girlfriend. Well, not my mum, because she was back in Australia, but it's just I think most of the time in the crowd was the other bands that were playing, and and like a few people. It was
so what
humble beginnings.
Really, was it like during the week shows or weekend shows, or was it just
all like basically? I mean, just whenever they could fit in shows. It's as if it could be a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday thing. You have Thursday off, then you do Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
And what was your best show on that tour? Do you remember one?
It was the Los Angeles show, which was the very last show of the tour, and we played at a venue called the Satellite, which is pretty like classic venue. Like
Silver Lake.
I knew of the venue from movies, and it was kind of like a famous venue.
Oh, cool!
So we were pretty stoked to be playing at the Satellite, which was all that time ago. That was definitely the best show of the tour, and we finished it off with a big party, and it was great.
Oh, cool! So we're going to take a little break right now, but when we come back, we're going to talk about how your life changed and how you learned how to stay balanced in your life after success. On the next episode of Sound, Mind, and Body, I sit down and talk to Blake Beltram, co-founder and wellness evangelist from MindBody, a technology company that is changing the world of wellness.
As part of servant leadership, I see that I have a calling here to stand up and really frame what this wellness revolution is, hold a mirror up to the leaders of it like yourself, and both congratulate you and hug you and challenge you to do better.
Right.
Because the world really needs you right now. If we're going to heal this world and everything that we see going on with it on a daily basis, we have to heal the individual.
That's next week on Sound, Mind, and Body.
Hey, it's Tim Edwards with the Inbound Podcasting Network and producer of Sound, Mind, and Body. Just the fact that you're listening to the Sound, Mind, and Body podcast tells us that you enjoy consuming your content through your ears. Now, if you're a podcast listener, you're a perfect fit to enjoy audiobooks. So for you, our listeners and official members of Sheila's woo-woo community, Audible is offering you a free audiobook download and a free 30-day trial to check out their awesome service. Look, I'll be honest, I hate reading, always have. I'm a very slow reader, and I don't have the time to just sit down and read a book. So, like you, I've always loved consuming my content through listening. I've been an Audible customer for several years, and as a result, on average, consume about 20 to 25 books a year. In other podcasts the Inbound Podcasting Network produces, we've interviewed authors like Dr. Martin Gabala, who penned The 1 Minute Workout, and Dr. Sylvia Tara, who wrote The Secret Life of Fat. Both are very informative for those who are looking to get in shape and to stay in shape, and both are available with Audible. Give it a shot. You've got nothing to lose. It's absolutely free for 30 days, and you get a free audiobook to keep even if you don't continue with the subscription. Support Sound, Mind, and Body by visiting audibletrial.com/inbound. That's audibletrial.com/inbound. We'll include a link in the show notes, or just click the Audible banner at soundmindbodypodcast.com.
Okay, we're back and we're talking to Chris Whitehall, the lead vocalist of the Griswolds. So, Chris, when we took a break, we were talking about after your first U.S. tour, and now you've gone back to Australia and you're like doing this as your job. So how did that change your life? How did you achieve balance in your life, or did you find it hard?
Definitely found it hard. I think at the time, if we're putting ourselves kind of in like the making of the first album, I guess at this point, and we were recording in early 2014, and then I think the first single came out, Beware the Dog, in April of 2014, and that's kind of when everything started really blowing up for our band.
That's a huge hit. The
singles started doing really well at radio here, and everyone was talking about it, and we started doing... Our tours like really picked up from just because of the radio support that we had here. So our tours really picked up. We started like being able to sell out really good shows, and we were touring almost endlessly. I feel like we were literally going back between America, Australia, and Europe, and it was literally one tour just led into the next tour, and we were kind of constantly on the road, which is almost what's necessary when you're supporting a single.
Yeah.
So that's 2014 and 2015 was just the years of crazy touring, endless touring. So at that time, when everything started blowing up, I would say it was extremely hard to try and keep balanced. For a band that's doing well, and you feel like, oh wow, like we're selling out shows, like it can really get to your head. Like it goes to your head big time. And I think especially as like the singer of the band who's kind of fronting up the shows,
right?
There's a lot of ego involved in a band and something you've created. It's a hard thing to like really not let that ego go to your head.
But I imagine it's like you kind of have to get into that mode in order to perform well every night. It's almost like you got to just bring it, you know?
Kind of a character. I kind of like relate it to acting a little bit. Like the person I am on stage is not necessarily the person I am off.
Right.
You're putting on a show.
Right,
like,
right.
You got to put on the best show. You could be having the worst day ever. You could have got the worst news from home. And you got to go out there and put on 100%, like every night, back to back every night. So it can get crazy. And so, I mean, for me, definitely, like, and for probably a lot of the members of our band, like, we would definitely like turn to like partying just to take our mind off.
Right.
The bedlam that was our lifestyle at the time, the stresses of, just kind of ignoring everything. So in terms of balance, I would say it definitely was unbalanced.
Yeah. Did you,
for a long time,
was your health okay? Or did anybody get sick? Or was it like, we went, oh my God, I have to chill out a little here? Or was there a point where you...
I mean, health wise, I think we were okay. I mean,
you're young.
We were young enough to fight it off.
To handle.
We were definitely hungry. I think like those early years of touring when we kind of really didn't have the support and we were playing shows and like losing a lot of money from playing shows. It was just kind of the way it was. You invested in your band enough that you had a tour that you had to do, and the tour might cost you $60,000 to do a tour, and we maybe only made 30 or 40. So we, as a business, losing $20,000 just on a tour, and the band members are normally the one that suffer.
And then you just do that in order to sell albums. Is that what you're touring to sell albums?
Touring to basically promote your new album, promote your new song, and basically just to that kind of face-to-face connection with the fans, which is like the most important thing I think about any album cycle.
Yeah,
is doing the shows and being able to connect with the people that are listening to your music and loving you.
Right. So you have a saying that I've learned, and it's YAPFISH. 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 And I saw this on the back of a jacket that one of your friends was wearing, and I said, oh, is that a band? What's that? YAPFISH? So you can you tell us what that stands for and how you came up with that?
Well, it's a funny thing that me and my drummer Lachlan came up with, and we actually both have it tattooed on our bodies. So it's a karma saying that we just came up with on the road of basically you always pay for it somehow. So that's the acronym.
Okay.
YAPFISH, you always pay for it somehow. And I guess it's just our own expression of that. You got to be really responsible for your actions, because whatever you do, there is going to be a reaction to that, whether it is positive or negative. So it is, like for us, it's a kind of our own karma expression that we just made up as a funny thing on the road, which happens so often. I know we have endless inside jokes, but this inside joke ended up being tattooed on us, and actually like having, a lot of our fans know about the YAPFISH tattoos and what it means to us.
So do you think there was a point where you came to where you were like, okay, I'm going to just, at some point, if I continue on partying too much and everything, this is not going to be good. And did you make a decision, or was it just a natural progression of things?
I think there was definitely a rock bottom moment that was on one of our tours in 2016. Mm-hmm. And it was just definitely like a feeling of, if this goes on, it's going to be bad. And I had people telling me, I had our record label and managers kind of talking to us and sitting me down and being like, hey, we want you to be happy and successful and healthy and be able to keep going and to be sane, because just life on the road, it really is, it can very easily really...
it's an alternate reality.
It is an alternate reality for sure. And if you let it, it can really just take over, and you can go through some pretty dark times on the road where you're lonely in a hotel room, or, you know, sitting on a bus. And, you know, even though you have essentially your brothers there around you, I think a lot of the time we are going through like quite lonely things that we don't talk about. And I think that's a very male thing as well, for us to be not fantastic at expressing our feelings. I think that's a very male thing that we do. I feel like women are so much better at doing that. So I feel like all of us were just probably a lot of the times like going through these really depressed states on the road and not really talking about it. So it gets pretty low doing that. So I think hitting that point and having people actually starting to talk to us about like, hey, it's really time to change something in your life here. You don't want to be, you know, still doing this band in 10 years and still partying like you are, not sleeping and basically doing incredibly unhealthy things to your body.
Yeah.
So there was definitely a point in early 2016 that was like, cool, some changes need to be made here. Lifestyle needs to change. You can't keep touring this way.
Right.
Like there was a point I feel like I was like letting down fans as the front man of the Griswolds. I feel like the shows were kind of declining a little bit.
Yeah.
Because of how much I was drinking before shows. And those are all just coping mechanisms at the time. So something had to give. Something really had to change. So I think I'd say that was the decision then in May of 2016.
Okay. So how do you stay of sound, mind, and body now in your life? How did you change your life to stay balanced?
Well, it's a lot of rituals now, I think, and I definitely don't think I'm perfect by any means, but
it's a lifetime process, believe me.
It's not something I don't think I'll ever just hit the mark and be like, cool, I've done it. I am now.
You don't.
I am now golden. I think it's a journey, and I'm still very much on that journey of learning what is best for myself and the kind of things I need to do. But for me, I have rituals now that I love doing in the morning, and those consist of maybe a bit of light yoga. I'm absolutely not good at yoga or flexible, but I try my best. Just writing and sort of like expressing my feelings through writing down my feelings in a book. Meditating's a big one. That's probably the biggest one, I think, for me. It's so easy to do. It's like
it's an important
it can be
one.
5 minutes a day. It could be 20 minutes a day. It could be really a minute a day if you want it to be. But it's like, for me, I think that's been a really, really important thing, especially in the last 12 months, for me to be able to actually kind of connect with the inner loving version of myself, and for me to be able to love myself again, which is a really important thing. I guess the ego, like what I was talking about before, how that ego kind of takes over that front man of a band, big head kind of guy. That's what I've really been trying to work on, squashing that, so I can really just kind of be the more loving, positive man that I am, because that is deep down who I am.
Right.
And that's a journey I'm on every day.
That's great. I'm glad. You're on that journey now. Okay, so we're going to find out a little bit more about you. I'm going to ask you the questions that I ask all my guests.
Cool.
And that is, okay, so the first one is, what's a favorite sound?
Ooh, that's a great question. There's a lot of favorite sounds I have. I think one of the most soothing sounds I can think of would be the ocean.
Ah.
So there's nothing, and especially at nighttime for some reason, I think that everything, as like all surrounding sounds have kind of died down, the ocean just sounds beautiful at nighttime. It's
very
one
relaxing.
It's just one of my favorite things in the world, being by the ocean and hearing that. I used to actually live by the beach, and you could hear the ocean kind of roll in through the window into the bedroom, and it was just the most peaceful thing. And I have an app now that simulates the sound of the ocean.
Oh, you do? I love that.
It just literally just plays a loop of waves rolling in on a shore for hours.
So if you're in a hotel room somewhere, you can...
Exactly.
That's great. Okay, so what's a favorite memory? Just something that comes to mind.
I think one of my favorite memories was probably in the band playing... We played this festival called Hangout Fest, which is on the Gulf Shores of Alabama.
Ooh.
It's the best festival. Like, it was so cool. And we somehow got bumped up to the main stage, like, last minute, like literally 2 hours before we were meant to play. We were playing, like, you know, maybe one of the third biggest stages or something, and they bumped us up to the main stage. So we're playing in front of 20,000 people.
Oh my gosh.
It's right on the beach. So like the beach is all there right in front of you as we're playing. And we decided last minute that we were going to do a cover of Jump by Van Halen.
Oh, wow. Fun.
And our good friends from Walk the Moon came up and played with us. And
great.
Our other friends from a band called Magic Man came up. So the three bands were all on stage together. And I was screaming out Jump by Van Halen to 20,000 people who were all jumping up and down. And
how fun.
I think that's like the highlight of my life. I could never imagine that would ever be something I would do, but here we are.
That sounds awesome.
It was
I would
really cool.
love to be in that audience.
It made a 5-year-old version of myself very happy.
That's dating me. Like, I was the 25-year-old version of myself. And okay, so what's a favorite place?
That's a really good question too. I've got so many favorite cities around America. I guess Los Angeles is one of them. Anywhere in Sydney along the coastline, along the beaches, like on the east coast of Australia, they're just heaven to me. And going back to beaches again, but like, if I'm on a beach, I am literally just in heaven. I am at peace. I think
you're going to have to live on a beach.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely the dream. A farm on a beach with my 100 dogs. And that would be my absolute heaven. So, yeah, the beach is definitely one of them. Austin, Texas is another one.
Oh, really?
That's one of my favorite places on earth.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's a really cool city. Good food.
Yeah, and lots of music.
Lots of music.
All right, so final question. What's the most woo-woo thing you've ever done?
Wow, that's a really good question. I think for me, like, one of the craziest, most out there moments of my life was definitely signing that record label deal. I think that for me changed my life. That threw me into like a world that I could never have expected. I really wasn't trained for it. And that literally changed my life. It was the most exciting thing I could have ever done. I think I remember a point when I was like with my family and I was going to my first trip to America and I was going to be gone for 6 months and my whole family came to this party and I knew at that point, for some reason, I really knew my life really wouldn't be the same ever again. And it wasn't. So I think that was the most woo-woo, crazy feeling I've felt.
That sounds awesome. And do you think you're going to top that?
I hope so. I would say definitely.
The next phase?
Yeah, the next phase. It's like, I think I'm at the beginning of a new cycle right now where a lot of amazing things are already happening, but I actually definitely believe that I'm going to top that.
So what's next on that note, what is next for you in the band? And
so I'm very excited to say, currently writing our third album, which
awesome.
Is really, really cool. It's been good to get back into doing more Griswolds. I'm really excited for this year and what it brings. And me personally, I am doing a lot of songwriting with other people now, just kind of like writing songs for them as a professional songwriter. So that's been a really exciting start to 2018 for me, doing all that.
So you brought your guitar.
I sure did.
We're hoping that you're going to play something for us.
I can absolutely play something for you guys.
Great. So without further ado, here is Chris Whitehall from the Griswolds. It's a very special private performance.
So I'm going to play one of our songs called Out of My Head. You got your reasons wrong. You can't complain, you don't have anyone
one to blame. I got the message home. And I realized I didn't read between the lines. The sweet sensation's gone. There was a time your eyes would give me butterflies, but now the season's done. You can't deny I was the reason we survived. I hope you understand. Don't call my phone, 'cause nobody's home. It's all your fault. I want you out of my head. My head, my head, my head, my head. And when I hear your song, it reminds me of a perfect summer night. We danced to Elton John. And I can't pretend I ever wanted this to end. I hope you understand. I did everything I could with my two hands. Don't call my phone, 'cause nobody's home. It's all your fault. I want you out of my head. My head, my head, my head, my head. And I hope you understand. This wasn't everything that I had planned. I hope you understand. I did everything I could with my two hands. Don't call my phone, 'cause nobody's home. It's all your fault. I want you out of my head. My head, my head, my head, my head. And I want you out of my head, my head, my head, my head, my head.
Oh my gosh, that was so cool. Thank you so much, Chris Whitehall from the Griswolds, for that amazing rendition of your song, Out of My Head. Thank you so much. Love it. So have any of you seen the Griswolds? Do you love their music as much as I do? Send us an email or a voice memo to podcast@soundmindbodypodcast.com. And thanks for listening. Please subscribe if you haven't already. And if you like the podcast, give us a review on iTunes. It really helps new listeners find us. Thank you to our guest, Chris Whitehall, and to our producer, Tim Edwards, and the Inbound Podcasting Network. Get in touch. We're on Instagram at Sound Mind Body Podcast. I'm on Twitter at Sheila Melody 1, or find us on Facebook or the web. Search for Sound Mind Body Podcast. I'm Sheila Melody. Join us next week as we explore, enlighten, and evolve.